Impossible dreams and nightmare scenarios. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Something you should know very well. When you leave the building, you'll see it on the wall over there. I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me. So it's seemingly impossible. I wonder in your life if you have ever done anything which, on the face of it, was seemingly impossible. And I wonder if sometimes some of your dreams, your biggest dreams, seemingly impossible dreams, have actually failed and fallen to the ground. I think some of mine have. When I was at primary school, when I was about 7, I was so keen and fantasised about this. And as I played with my toy cars, the sports car, I imagined the two of us going along the car together to the palace. And I dreamed that I was going to marry Princess Anne. She was a little older. And Captain Mark Phillips got there first. My other dream at that time was to be in the England football team. Go to the World Cup. Impossible dream, not just for me. And win the World Cup. But for some reason, maybe the talent scout wasn't there. I was always watching, always looking to see if they were watching me. And they either were and they didn't pick up my skills. And the other one was to be a rock star. Age 14, 15, I wanted to hit the big time. And my friends, Will, Mark, another Will, Nick, and I formed a band, and I was the lead singer. The writing on the wall should have been the name of the band. We called ourselves Dodo. And within a year we were as dead as the dodo. We were extinct. But maybe, that's because I wasn't a Christian. I didn't know about this verse. I didn't have enough faith. I didn't have any faith. Maybe things would be different because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me. So maybe I should be putting a phone call in to Gareth Southgate now that I can name and claim it. Maybe I should be phoning Will and Mark and Nick and the other Will and reforming Dodo, the resurrection of Dodo. And as for Princess Anne, well, the world says I'm happily married, thank you. What about you? You can do all things, everything through Christ who strengthens you. So what about your dreams? What would your seemingly impossible dreams be? Maybe you could be a millionaire this time next year, Rodney. Maybe you could marry George Clooney, or Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, if you're single. Maybe you could sing at the National Opera. Maybe you could write that best-selling book. What about your impossible dreams? Because the word says, doesn't it? You can do all things. You can do everything through Christ who strengthens you. Name and claim it. Just have enough faith. Muster up that faith and think what your life could be like. The inconvenient truth is that we need to read verses in context. We can't just pluck them out of the Bible and use them as we will. And the thing is, with Greek is quite a simple language. Not simple to learn, but quite a simple language compared to English, which is very complex. We have many words in English to use for different things, different feelings, different scenarios. But with New Testament Greek, they had relatively few words. So the few words that they had would be used for a lot of different meanings. Therefore, it is so important, even more important with the New Testament. When we're looking at words, when we're looking at verses, to read them in context. Otherwise we can go all over the place. And the word in question this morning, ischio, can be used in very many different ways. You'll notice, or you might not have noticed, but the reading that we had before the sermon was of the NIV, the Bible we use, the New International Version, but it was the older version. And it's been updated and changed from "I can do everything through him who gives me strength," or in most other Bible versions, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." Have a look at verse 13. You can see that it's been changed to "I can do all this through him who gives me strength." So the context are the words, the verses that come before, the words and verses that come afterwards, indeed the whole context of the letter of Philippians, and indeed the whole context of the Bible. So what is Paul writing about? It doesn't seem to be these external future things. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can do the seemingly impossible through Christ who strengthens you. Paul is saying all this, that which he has just been writing about. Paul has been saying, I've had plenty. I've also been in need. But I have learned to be content in all circumstances. And throughout the rest of the letter he talks about, will I die, will I live? I don't know. But I can do all this through Christ who strengthens me. So not about these externals that we can name and claim, but something about the internal in each of us that we can actually endure and get through. I can survive, I can come through all this through Christ who strengthens me. And think about Paul's situation. He was imprisoned at the time of writing the letter. Traditionally people say in Rome, but others say probably Ephesus, but it doesn't really matter for this morning. He was imprisoned, probably chained to a guard for most of the day. And in those days, you didn't get lots of meals in prison. You had to get it provided for. It was tough. One of my nightmare scenarios when I visited probably every prison in the country in my previous job, I used to think, I hope I don't get locked in. I hope I don't forget that I'm visiting in this room somewhere. And the relief when I used to walk through the gates at the end and see the gates, especially the Victorian prisons, shut behind me. Whew. But for Paul, he also had the nightmare scenario. He didn't know he was going to be executed. Not only was he imprisoned, he had lost his liberty, but also he had that hanging over him as well. It was a nightmare scenario. And he was writing to the church in Philippi because he was trying to encourage them as well. The threat of persecution for the Christians in Philippi was increasing, and they could soon be arrested, they could soon be facing physical persecution. So that encouragement, as he says about, I have done all things through Christ who strengthens you, offering that same encouragement to them as well. So what about the nightmare scenarios in our life? What can we learn from Paul? And those mildly tough things as well. How do we cope? How do we get through all things? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that we get by with a little help from our friends. And Paul's saying that. It's quite interesting the way he writes, because he looks a little bit ungrateful. There's this kind of thing, well, thank you for the gift, thank you for the money, and this person, Epaphroditus, has been sent from the church in Philippi, presumably with a big gift of money, but also to look after Paul's needs in prison alongside others. And he seems to be writing, well, you haven't been able to do it before, but thanks for doing it now. And that's not right. He was actually grateful and thankful. But he's pointing out that he could have survived. I've learned what it is to have plenty. I've learned what it is to have nothing. But he's still showing gratitude. He still appreciates the help of other people from within the church. And some of the phrases he uses throughout Philippians, fellow workers, a fellow soldier in Christ. He talks about this work of the gospel that will come to completion, the work we are in together. He's also talking a little bit earlier about Yulia and Syntyche, two people who are fellow workers who have fallen out, and the need to work together, get together. So the importance of church, looking after each other, working with each other, supplying our needs, encouraging each other, is absolutely key. I know that in my life, my walk for 23 years. I think about the time many years ago when I was in need of encouragement, I was in need of a hug, I was in need of prayer, and people were there. I think of our financial needs. Going to Bible college and giving up all that income. It wasn't a massive income, but it was a lot compared to nothing. And generous people within the church funding all my training, having already funded all my counselling training. I know what it's like. I know what it's like over the last 10 years here. That at the right time, just at the right time, David Thatcher came along to encourage and to say, you can do it. In Christ you can do it. And many of you have had encouraging words. And I've tried to be the same to you over the years and to many others, to get alongside, to encourage, to help where I can. What do you like at receiving help? Is that part of your church culture? What do you like at giving help? We all go through different seasons. Sometimes we might be in a season where we are to receive help. But never stay stuck in that season. Because the healthy thing is to sometimes give, to sometimes receive. Not getting to that place of codependency where we're always wanting to receive help. But also not getting into the place where we're always giving help and unable to receive help from others. Because that can be unhealthy as well. So can I encourage you as I encourage myself? Let's help each other through good times and in nightmare scenarios and the mildly tough times. In so many ways as we learn to love each other more and more deeply. It takes humility, it takes openness, it takes being humble. It involves taking that risk. But with that in mind, this might be news to you, you might know it already. It will be imperfect help. We'll get by with a little help from our friends. But they can't do everything. They are imperfect. They will let you down. Or their words might not be as brilliant as they could be. Sometimes actually they might stop listening because they're using too many words. They'll get it wrong. Sometimes they won't just be with, they'll try to take over. But at other times the help will be well received. But whatever the case, it will never be enough because we are imperfect. And actually, it's never meant to be enough. So how else do we get through nightmare scenarios? If we can't take each other's problems always away, they're stuck with those financial problems, those health problems, those mental health problems, those relationship problems, those feelings of loss. If my brothers and sisters in Christ can't take them away, where do I go next? Inside. The invitation to go inside. More and more deeply inside. And by that I'm not talking about stoicism, the stiff upper lip. I'm just going to get on with it because I'm strong and I'm capable and I can do anything in my strength. There's a good side to stoicism sometimes, and it's good to try in our own strength. But it's more than that. At first glance, as you read Paul's letter, he could appear to be saying, don't need your money, thanks anyway, but I've learned to cope. Whether I've got lots, whether I've got very little, I'm quite good at this. But that's not what Paul is saying. I can do all this through Christ who strengthens me. So the invitation is to go deeper and deeper, to become more and more reliant, to live out of our unity with the Christ who lives within, God who lives within by his Spirit. To allow it to move from there to there. I heard this frightening phrase the other day. Functional atheism. Functional atheism. And somebody was saying that most Christians are functional atheists. And what they meant by this is that most Christians will say, yes, I believe that, I believe that, I believe that. I believe in the Trinity, I believe in the Incarnation, I believe, but it's all up here. And when you look at their lives, in actual fact, day to day, apart from going to church on Sunday, their lives are very similar to those who are atheists or agnostics. Because they're not living it in their daily lives. And that's not a condemnation, not certainly this morning. It's a sadness. Paul's words are encouraging because he says this: I have learned to be content in all circumstances. It didn't come overnight. It has come over many years of hardship and good things, but he has learned to be content in all circumstances. It's not head knowledge. And the encouragement is with the help of God. If we choose to be open, if we try to live out of our union with Christ, making mistakes for sure, going through those times when he feels very absent, when our trust in him has gone from here, but yet we come through those things, choosing to keep on trusting. Taking risks in life because of our faith. That is how we become living, breathing followers of Christ and imitators of Christ, rather than keeping it all up here. I haven't got all this. I am not content in all circumstances. Ask Kate. I am not content in all circumstances, but I am learning and I am trying to learn. How about you? Do you feel that wooing, that call, that still small voice saying to you, trust me more, trust me more, allow me in more, be more open to me more, learn together with me. You have come through all this already. You have come through a lot in life already. How do I know? Because you're here. And some of it you might have come through in your own strength. Some of it you know you have come through because of the strength of Christ within you. That power made perfect in your weakness when you have come to the end of your own strength. When that rope you're clinging onto has frayed or snapped. But for some of us, Christ has been there helping us anyway, even when we weren't aware of it. You have come through all this through Christ who strengthens you. And what about the ultimate? Whenever I read Paul's words, I long to be with Christ, but I'll probably be staying here. He's talking about death, and I think, I'm not ready to die yet. I haven't got that faith yet. But there's something in me that believes that the more I learn to trust and live out of union with Christ day by day, when it comes to that day, then by his grace, I will trust. And let me encourage you this morning, because we're all going to face it one day. This is not the impossible dream or the nightmare scenario, because the truth is, because of what Christ has accomplished through his death and resurrection. That seemingly impossible is reality, and we will all come through it and follow him through it to the other side for life eternal. Let me draw this together. Don't give up on the dreams, but keep on living out of your union with Christ in the midst of the hard times and the nightmares. I'll share one more story if you promise not to laugh. One of my other dreams that grew and grew and grew over the years, I had a fascination with America. And whilst I was at Bible college, a sense of calling to go and work as a minister in America started to grow, and I started to push doors and make relationships, and it was a possibility. It's seemingly impossible. And at that stage, I thought I was going to end up leading a very big church in the States. I thought by this stage I would have written many books. I thought I would become well known, maybe even on the telly. I thought it was going to happen. And look what happened. He called me just over the hill, so to speak, to little old Worthing Baptist Church, to an ageing church. And at this stage, I haven't written any books. I find it hard to write Christmas cards. I'm not well known. I think some of our sermons get about 20 hits online on a good day. I went to teach in Southampton for a couple of days last week, but that's about it. Not many people in Worthing know about me either. And I don't mind a jot. Because what has happened is that God has changed and transformed my impossible dreams. The desires of my heart have been reshaped. And I have no inclination to go to the States. I don't want to become well known. I love being part of this precious little church. And I have seen more beauty in the small and the little over the last 10 years. And he has also helped me come through the tough bits as well. This church has been around for about 140 years. I'm sure it's had highs and lows and something in between. But it is here because Christ has brought us through to date. And the invitation for all of us this morning is to be even more open through the good times, through the challenges. More open and to live out of that union with Christ. To allow him to shape and reshape you individually and us together as church. And as I say that, I have that genuine excitement in my heart. He has brought us through to date, and he has brought us through to this very precious season. Let's together, whatever nightmare scenarios we're in personally, or maybe the fantastic dream bits as well, continue to learn to trust. Continue to learn to love each other more deeply. Continue to learn to love him more deeply as we learn to love and grow in the knowledge of his love for us.